So let's start with the first question. Let's do some good questions. The first one's a crazy, interesting question because I've never thought about it before. Adam wants to know, is sweating in the same room as your gear, will it ruin the gear? My home gym doubles as my gear amp set space.
I'm going to say no.
Yeah, I'm going to agree with that. No.
Because places with high humidity doesn't affect the gear, so...
Yes. When I was hanging out with Thor in Tennessee, he had to have dehumidifiers in his rooms. So I would say that, obviously too much humidity is not good. Too little humidity is not good. The acidity in your sweat, and I can't imagine a lot of that's in the air.
It would be like a transfer. If you're playing a lot of gigs, you were sweating a lot, it would transfer from your hand.
Yeah. I'm going to say no, especially since one of my pieces of advice for people here in dry climates like where I live, a lot of times they ask about humidifying their guitars, and one of the things I recommend is a lot of the homes where I live, and it's real common now in newer homes, that the bathroom doesn't have, in the master bedroom, does not have a door. It's like a cutout, and so your water closet has a door, but the bathtub, the main bathroom does not have a door from the master bedroom. So what I tell people is leave your gear in your bedroom when you take showers in the morning, and that'll help humidify your gear, or get that moisture content up instead of buying a humidifier. So I'm going to say, Adam, no, you're good. If you're that concerned about it, it's not going to hurt into the actual amps or pedals and stuff. If you're worried about guitars like strings corroding stuff, I'd throw a blanket over them while you're working out. Maybe that'll help. I can't imagine it will hurt doing that, and I can't imagine you're going to have any issues other than maybe the moisture in the air hurting strings, but that's just strings. And I have a video that is actually almost in post-production right now about strings that'll fix that. Okay. Next question. What do we got? Okay, so Julian's got a question. I plugged my Marshall 110 volt into a 220 volt and it started smoking. Is it toast? Ooh, it's bad.
It's not good.
It's not good. The whether it's toast or not is really decided about where it decided to burn up, and you won't know until you take it to an amp tech. So you're going to have to take it to a tech. You can probably go on a forum, take some pictures inside. Once you unplugged it, let it cool down. Take some pictures inside to see what burnt up. Obviously, it smoked something. Burn up. The trick is where it burned up. So there's some fuses to protect it. Hopefully some of those blew before all that voltage got through the whole amp. But it's really, really not good. So that kind of sucks. Sorry to be the bearer of bad news. You're definitely going to have to take it to an amp tech. The only thing I can tell you is don't mess with it. At this point, it really needs to go to a tech. Now, the question is the value of the amp. You said Marshall, but I don't know if it's inexpensive or expensive Marshall. If it's inexpensive, unfortunately, it might not be worth fixing. So if you give us more information, maybe we'll help you on that. Gregory Stone, great question. What does quarter sawn mean? Love that, right? Quarter sawn is the best way to, because it's hard to explain without visual aids, but I'll do my best to explain it like this. Picture a tree, a log. Okay, so if you cut a tree and you're looking at the log, you're looking at circular rings, right? Mm-hmm. Quarter sawn would mean you would cut that log into quarters like a pizza. So you imagine you're coming at the angle of the grain correctly. Flat sawn means you're coming at it rows. So if you imagine that circle, imagine if you cut in quarters, you'll get less wood blanks than you would if you went in rows and got flat sawn cuts. So a lot of guitar necks have quarter sawn necks, and the logic being that cutting that in that pattern, in that grain pattern, makes for a stronger neck. I've never done any personal research to know if that's even true. I've never seen where one neck is better than the other. But all of the guitar luthiers that I trust really believe that quarter sawn is a better product. I do have both quarter sawn and flat sawn necks in my collection. None of my guitars have ever neck twisted, but. That being said, I don't know if I've ever seen a quarter sawn neck twisted. I've seen a lot of flat sawn necks twisted.
Yeah, if you go online, you can find some animations that actually show you how they do the quarter sawn, and it's really interesting to see. Yeah, and how they figured that out.
And personally, for me, quarter sawn I think is better than flat sawn. I definitely think doing multiple, multi-laminate necks. that's definitely the best. There's a reason why even the high-end bass companies do a multi-laminate neck. That's where they cut different types of wood, or the same board, they'll cut it and flip the directions of the wood and make it even stronger. So that's something I definitely even like more than that. Oh, Justin maybe says, hey, did you guys see Micah's troll burn video? I did. I loved it. In fact, I was just asking you. You said you didn't see it, right?
Yeah, I didn't see it. No.
You have to watch it. You know what it was? It was just so nice to see what a positive attitude somebody could have about getting a troll. You know what I mean? Somebody who's, and it was a true troll. It was. You know, to me, the worst troll comments aren't the ones that are mean or rude or inappropriate. The ones they're just off topic. You didn't even pick a video for. Because you know why? They confuse me. I don't know if they're lost. Sometimes I worry about them, like maybe like an elderly person that doesn't know where they are in the mall. They make a comment on a video, and I go, that comment doesn't
fit the scheme of the video.
Yeah.
It's like,
so I don't know where are you lost? Like sometimes I wonder, like, did they flip screens and start typing and just didn't realize they're in the wrong?
Like they're on the wrong video and making a comment.
Yeah, so that was awesome. So, let's see, and Nathan says, "Hey Phil, what are you most excited to see, and who are you looking forward to talking to at GitCon? Tell Ralph I miss him, making fun of me." Oh yeah, you were kind of mean to him a lot.
No more than you.
This is probably true. He's young; he could take it.
Yeah. Hey Nate, just to let you know, the last guy we did that to became a Marine. So
yes, this is true. Yeah, I forgot about that. Okay, so to answer the question, what am I excited to see? What gear am I excited, right? And who am I looking forward to? I'm really looking forward to meet Pete Thorne. I'm a big Pete Thorne fan, so I'm very excited to meet Pete Thorne and talk to him. Gear, believe it or not, I'm kind of excited about Marshall. I'm most excited about Marshall that they're going to be there, mostly because I've never had an interaction with Marshall where I felt like I could, understand where they are, mentally now. And they're one of the companies that I actually fear for Marshall. I really do. I like Marshall. I think if you're into gear, Marshall is just a brand that's iconic to you. But unlike Fender and Gibson, who I think are still in play and still doing okay, regardless of what people think. I mean, Fender and Gibson are still making products. Marshall seems to be constantly losing ground every year.
Yes.
And
there's a lot of head scratching from the community because they see the products and they don't understand where this product is coming from and who's it supposed to be for.
Yes.
Where is it going?
And I've had not one, but at least two amp companies tell me once, smaller amp companies tell me that if Marshall would get back in the game and focus on where the market's been going with amps, they would just annihilate everybody. And so they literally told me they live in a world where, because Marshall's not doing... and so I'm curious about that. And if you guys know it, I'm not trying to be vague. It's because we've talked about it. There's a lot of products out there that are really great, but if Marshall had a product in that category, they would be a contender.
Yes.
Yes, absolutely. So let's see.
Marshall is a great company.
Yeah.
There's a crazy history with Marshall amps.
Yes.
And sometimes now when you go on, you're looking at them, you're like, man, what? Like, who thought this was a good idea?
Well, you know what it is? I don't understand when there's 50 brands copying a brand.
Yeah.
And yet that brand isn't.
Yeah, they make the left turn and they're like, yeah.
Yeah. So it's kind of out there. So let's see. Okay, next question. Alberto says, hey, any more videos coming on the Klons? Yeah, we'll do the live video on the Klons. That's what I talked about. You guys gave me that great suggestion, to do a video, which I did, and then we'll do a live video talking about the Klons. I'll probably make that announcement. It'll be after GetCon, because I want to put out like 3-4 weeks ahead of time, just let everybody know, because it will literally be so we can just check it out. Lawrence got a comment. He's chiming in. He says, Marshall doesn't seem to appear to listen to their customers.
I'm going to agree.
Yeah, that's how I feel too. I feel like and I always point this out. I don't want to beat a dead horse with this, but my biggest point has been when they made those 1-watt little Marshall amplifiers that sold out. I mean, they sold 1-watt amps for $800, and they sold out, proving that there's a market that wants legitimately made good quality amplifiers for lower bedroom volumes.
Yes.
to me, it was like perfect example to come back to that and say, okay, what did we do right there? What do we, what could we improve on and come back to it? And instead, they just...
We get like the weird Mesa Boogie clone things.
Yeah, So there you go. So like I said, I'm eager to talk to them and not so much to give them my opinions. The opposite. I want them to explain to me where hopefully I'll understand them better. Douglas Bell says, what are some everyday items I can buy at my local music store that are high margin? I'd like to support them without buying expensive gear.
Strings.
Strings. Yeah. You know what? That's an interesting tidbit. It's a very interesting question. So I'm going to tell you guys. Hopefully you'll use this information for good, not evil, because there are some tricks to this. So let me tell you where stores, doesn't matter if they're small stores or big stores, make money. The biggest margin products for any store is going to be clip-on tuners. Those are high margin products. Generally speaking, a retailer would not expect to pay more than $6-7 for a clip-on tuner that sells for $20.
Yeah.
And that's on the high end. Usually it's buy 4, get 1 free boxes, which can get it down to even $5.50. So again, $5.50 get you 20. Guitar stands are also very high in margin. Guitar stands, usually you're buying those at $5-6 and you're flipping them for $10 to $15. So double, triple your money. Another margin, guitar straps. Guitar straps are tricky. Some have really good margins, double, triple the margins. Some have little margin. Generally speaking, the expensive Levy straps will have at retail. If their retailer is selling them for full mark retail, they'll double their money. But it's hard to when you're buying a really nice leather strap for $50 dealer cost, you can't sell it for $100. They sell it for like $65, $70. So those are good margins. Strings, of course. Picks generally are double mark, so you pay $2.50, you sell them for $5, kind of thing. Those margins keep shrinking on the small retailers, as you can imagine. It's hard to justify to the consumer, $6 for a pack of picks if you can buy them on Amazon for $3.50 to $4.50. But those are definitely where it's at. All the accessories, guitar cables. Guitar cables are probably the highest marked up product there is to this day. Usually, even Guitar Center, an online company selling guitar cables for $25, those cables come in at about $5-7 a cable.
Yeah, but it's always nice if you go in a store and you occupy the guy's time for a little bit, asking him questions. He's helpful. Then you buy a pack of strings. That's something you're going to need anyways.
Yeah.
So
yeah. It does.
Picks. You're always losing picks, so it's always nice to know, especially if they do you a solid.
Yep. No. All the accessories are going to have good margins, so that's why everyone wants to add those on. And the reason why, especially mom and pop shops, are on that world. Guitar Center has a different business model. They will push sometimes the accessory prices down in hopes that you come to get accessories more often, and then while there, make other purchases like see a guitar. So they're using a lot of those accessories as not high margins, where the mom and pops will they're on the opposite spectrum. They're using those to actually pay the electric bill and stuff. So yeah, just stick with accessories if you're trying to help the mom and pop shops. Next question. Cheddar Kung Pao says, HSS or SSS for Suhr Classic. Also, Nitro versus Polyfinish, Surf Green versus Fiesta Red. Man, Cheddar Kung Pao, get out of my head, because
Surf Green Nitro, Humbucker single.
Really?
That's what I'm going to go with, yeah.
So I look at the Suhr Classic guitar once a week. I go on Reverb and look how much they weigh and how much they are. I mostly look at the Fiesta Red. I have a thing about the Fiesta Red. That's why I bought that red, this red guitar here.
You guys can't see?
You can't. No, I think they can see it because we're not looking at our screen. See? So, oh no, you couldn't see it. Yeah, this one. That's why I bought the Rosewood Neck Strat. Is because I was trying to curve the desire to buy a Suhr Fiesta Red guitar. So for me, if it was me, Cheddar, I would definitely go Fiesta Red with the HSS. Just because I cannot, for the life of me, get a really good tone out of a bridge single coil pickup. In fact, it's just they're always too bright and glassy for my ears. So HSS Fiesta Red for me, in Nitro versus Polyfinish. I could go either way. I'd be fine either way. So, no preference there. I like both for different reasons. What was yours again?
Surf Green Nitro HSS.
Sweet. There you go. Hope that helps. If you end up getting it, let me know.
Always an option for me. It's always going to be Surf Green if I can.
Yeah. So Justin's got a question. Justin says, I went through 5 snarks before I bought a clip-on Polytune. What's your go-to headstock tuner?
Snark.
Yeah, your snarks, right?
Yeah. I have the Korg. I've gone through a couple different Korgs.
I have all of them.
Yeah, you do.
Yeah, I have Korgs. I have, this is the Diodario one. I have a lot of snarks.
Snarks on your Les Paul.
But right now I'm biased, so I'm gonna take myself out of the question. Here's why: since I've been doing the YouTube channel, I've had a couple companies just really be nice to me, for legitimate reasons. I mean, most companies, that are nice to you for having a channel, they're just trying to get you to do an infomercial or something. And sometimes when I talk to them and they're not, I tell them I'm not interested in doing that, But Dane Electro has been really nice to me. They were the only company, I don't want to say only, they were the first company to ever contact me, say nothing other than, can we send you something? And they just sent me something. They just wanted my address. They didn't want to talk about what I wanted to say or think. And so, long story short, they were nice enough to me that I feel guilty about using other tuners. So I bought a box of Snarks a couple weeks ago. So I have a Snarks for all my... I like the Snark. It's a good tuner. And I wanted to help Dane Electro since they were really nice to me. If you guys saw on Instagram, I had the new Pride of Texas pedal. They just sent that to me. I mean, no joke. They just sent me an email and said, hey, something's in the mail for you tomorrow. Enjoy it. And it just shows up. And I don't know if you guys know, I mean, when they do that, they don't know if I'm going to review it or talk about it, if I'm just going to keep it. And so there's no strings attached. So really cool company to do that. Most companies want to make sure that you're going to say something nice.
Going after, someone else asked earlier, what do you think of the Pride of Texas pedal?
I love this pedal. Yeah, I love. Okay, so let me talk about it real fast. It's metal. It looks plastic, but it's metal. It's built really well. It sounds really, really good. I'm doing a full review. I started doing it today. I'm very excited about it. I like I said, I didn't know anything about it. It just showed up. So I looked it up after I checked it out. It's $79. I thought that was very reasonable. Yeah. We were playing with it for an hour today, right?
Yeah, we were.
It's awesome.
It's fantastic.
Yeah, it's unique. It's not a tube screamer. It's not a clone. It's not something I've experienced before. It's definitely a boost driver, but it's got a lot of volume. Not gain, just a lot of volume. The volume knob is almost scary how much it pushes the amp. I was showing him today on the Clean channel.
Yeah,
it feels like you're going to blow your speakers if you're not careful with it, but it has such great uses for it. So there you go. Hope that helps a lot. Let's see. Okay, next question is... All right. Okay, so I'm trying to say the name. I can't say it. Artie? Let's say Artie Fresh. I just bought a Kona electric guitar. Have either of you guys ever heard and or have an opinion on them? Kona's the brand? Never heard of it. Google that.
Look it up.
Google it while we'll come back to that. Next. Okay, Kyle says, I just bought my first tube amp, a DSL 40. Sounds kind of harsh. Do you think it's worth upgrading to the creamback or just try and break in the stock speaker? First, definitely break in that stock speaker. I feel like every amplifier when I first get it is harsh. It's always the speaker. And I did a video where I talk about how I break in a speaker, so Kyle, check that out. But more importantly, it's how I figured out to break in speakers I think is important. Sometimes we would pull out amps out to display in the store, and we didn't like them. And over time, weeks, months, days, whatever, you go back and the amp started, you're like, I don't remember it sounding this good. And after a while, we didn't know, I never thought about it until one day it happened. Somebody was playing an amplifier. I don't even remember the amplifier. I just remember a customer was playing the amplifier, and they're like, okay, I'll take it, but I want one new in box. And we're like, okay. So we got a new box. They left, and they came back about an hour or two later, and they're like, this doesn't sound right. So we plugged it in. I thought maybe it was defective. It was, and I'm like, no, it sounds fine. So we A/B it, and the other one sounds so much nicer, smoother, less harsh. And we're like, so we thought it was just, so we actually got another one out of the box, and it was harsh. So we had him take the original. So I put one of the ones we got out of the harsh because there's nothing wrong with it. Put it on display. Same thing over time. It softened up. It's just sometimes amps just need work in. That's the first thing I would recommend before I would change out the speaker.
I remember the guys used to talk about different ways that would break in the amps and break in the speakers.
So
that's the Kona.
The Kona. Okay. So I'm looking at it right now.
Yeah.
What's the price point on it?
Well, that was $219.95.
Oh, okay. So it's so cool. It's an import guitar.
Yeah.
I don't know much about them. Sounds cool. So it's a Strat style guitar for $219.
We don't know if that's the one you got, but we're gonna guess it is.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah, seems cool.
Yeah.
I can't imagine it's
I can't imagine it being bad.
I talked about at the NAMM show, the summer NAMM show, that I hung out and talked to Trev Wilkinson of Wilkinson Bridges and stuff, and he said something to me that he said, remember, all Strats are just a alder body with a maple neck screwed to it. He goes, not bolted, wood screwed into it. He goes, it's as simple as that. Which, I knew that, we all know that, but it was funny to watch when he said it. Like, it just really kind of made you realize sometimes.
Like what it really is.
What it really is. It's a piece of maple, wood screwed to a piece of alder.
With some strings on it.
With some strings on it. We Backtrack says, my question is, nah, no question. Just wanted to say thanks for a great channel. Okay. Well, you're welcome. Thank you. I appreciate that. Let's see. Next question. Virtue's saying, Phil, you ever built a parts caster off Guitar Fetish? I have built. I can only exaggerate this, but I don't know the answer. I'm going to say 100 parts casters for customers, maybe more. I can tell you right now, I have done at least 4 or 5 dozen guitars where people brought me parts, put it on the counter, and said, "Okay," and then go just put it together for me. For everything from Warmoth stuff to low end stuff to Fetish, and so yeah, I've
stuff that guys had built themselves.
Yep. And what I've learned from all that, not so much to put it together, but what I learned from it was, stick to guitars like brands like Guitar Fetish and Fender, Squier, brands where the parts are interchangeable. A lot of the frustration I had ever putting stuff together is when nothing lines up. In fact, pick guards are a huge, huge deal. I highly warn against buying the wrong pick guard. People think that pick guard material is what matters. What really matters is the placement of where the cuts are. One of my all-time pet peeves about pick guards, especially Strat style pick guards, is that the bridge, whether it be single or humbucker, is cut into the wrong spot and moved about 1/4 of an inch to 1/8 of an inch towards the bridge. This is real common. And so what happens is that pushes the pickup 1/8 of an inch, 1/4 inch towards the treble side of the more treble side of string tone by the bridge. So it's really frustrating because the cutouts in most Fenders, whether they're Squiers or Fenders, is so big that pushback, you don't notice it when you put it into the body because the pickup still has enough room to go into the body. The frustrating again is the tone. It's really bright and shrill. It's not in a really nice, pleasing place. So make sure when you buy aftermarket pickguards that they are in the right spots. So there you go, especially on the humbuckers.
There you go, Lawrence, right there.
Yeah, what did Lawrence say? Drum. Yeah, for breaking in speakers, he said it's drum machine for 12 hours into an amp, well broken in. Yep. Yeah. Yep. I'm
gonna agree with Lawrence.
Absolutely, works perfectly. Yeah. In fact, the thing I've asked everybody that I think that knows about speakers, and basically what I got from is just keep the speaker moving for a few hours. That's all it's got to do. The speaker just moves.
Hold on.
Yep.
So Maddie asked, "Hey Ralph, have you ever considered an Orville as an alternative to Gibson if you're still after an SG?" No, because it's in my head. I need a Gibson SG.
Yeah.
It's in my head. It's been in my head for years. So even when we were a Gibson dealer, every time we got Gibsons in, I would go through all the SGs trying to find one that I liked, that I wanted.
Yeah.
Again, and the only reason why is I'm an Angus Young fan. That's the only reason why I want an SG.
Yeah.
And it's got to be red.
It's got to be red. Jonathan says, will Saldano ever become big? You know, I thought the Jet City thing was gonna do it for him, because I think that was, you know, those are essentially gateway amps. Those amps get everybody the amp, so they get it in their hands, and then they could see whoa, I like the quality. Maybe I should upgrade to a Saldano. And then he has an amazing deal where I think you can get any Jet City amp and send it to them, and then they'll mod it up and make it even better. So I don't know. You know, I sadly enough, I think Saldano has settled into the idea, which is not a bad thing, into the idea that he makes high-end expensive amps, you know, right? And if you want one, they'll make one. But he's done everything right. He's got fame. He's got notoriety. He's got a cool-looking amp. It's got a great sound. I mean, it's been used on some amazing albums. You know, Saldano amps are a who's who of great players have played them, from Queensryche to Eddie Van Halen to George Lynch. I mean, you know, there's just no end to it. So
Chris asks, any experience with Bugera amps, pros and cons?
Yes, a lot of people like them. I've had nothing about them sonically or physically with the sound has bugged me. I just hear so many people have also told me that they break, so it's always been a concern. But every time I make that comment, I have 10 other people tell me, I'm like, mine's never broke.
Yeah.
So that's all. So that's what it is. They're inexpensive. They're good. They're not great. You know, I don't think they're meant to be great. I think they're meant to be good. They're essentially they're like what PV used to be. They're a good product for the money kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
So the only thing, you know what, and that's probably where it's in my head. The reason why I got, you know, the breaking thing is, I think it's because I hang out with a lot of amp techs, and as soon as they break, they got to throw them away. They're just not worth fixing. You know, you can't buy an amp for $300, $250, and then want to pay $200 to fix it. So there you go.
Unless you really like that amp.
Yeah, of course. So there you go. I probably need to try some more Bugera amps. Probably need to. So I've said in the past when that came up that they knock off a lot of the inexpensive brands, and I thought that was kind of weird. I wish Bugera would knock off, if they're going to knock off something, they should knock off Bogner and Saldano. Knock off the, you know, I think the idea is, for me, amp company, if you're going to make a clone of somebody, make a clone of something I can't afford.
Yeah. So
I can tell you right now, if Bugera made a $600 or $500 version of a $3,000 amp or $2,500 amp, I would definitely be interested in checking that out. I'm not going to lie. I'd be curious. So, okay. Let's see. Okay, next question is... There's a lot of guys talking about cool guitars. Somebody's saying, Randon's saying Henning did a review of the Bugera, or would you guys talking about something else? See, that's what happens when I lose track of where we are. Okay, next question. Replacement pickup for a Gibson TB bass bucker, Gibson kind of muddy. That's Ed Bailey. So, for a Gibson TB bass bucker, you know, I don't know. It's so hard to suggest pickups. So, Ed, you know what? Everybody throw in some comments what you got and see if you can help Ed out. Lawrence is like, he's like, I love that Ralph said Bugera and Phil says Bugera.
Come on, man. This is Arizona public school education.
Yeah. Well, I'm probably saying it wrong. You're probably saying it right. Who knows? I'm
probably saying it wrong too.
You know, part of my problem when I do these products, when I announce, I say them like Piazzo. That's from reps of companies. Yeah, the reps of companies would tell me the name. I know for a fact I've been at the Behringer booth and the Behringer guys said it Bugera, and then later they said Bugera, and then they say Bugera, and I do it. The rep for Parker used to say Piazzo, Piazzo. He would say it different every time, and then he did it because he said everybody says it so many. He goes, wherever you are in the country, people say it differently. So he just started saying random each time, and so it's so funny. Okay, hey Phil, what is your take on the Fender offset hollow body Starcaster? Thank you, Michael. Yeah, because they're not making that anymore, right? Did that go away? That was they had brought those in. I thought they were cool. I thought it was an interesting idea. That's back when Larry was the president of Fender, who was the president of Guitar Center, and they were trying to come up with lots of new exciting products, and that was one of the things they brought back. And to be honest with you, I haven't looked in a while, but I imagine they're holding value because they stopped making them. They might still have them in the catalog. I don't know. So I played a couple. They were cool. It's a cool hollow body. Hollow bodies, I have a love-hate, depending on what time you ask me during the year, I could hate or love a hollow body. I have a bunch, and sometimes I play them, and sometimes I'm just like, they don't sound right. So, and only hollow bodies do that to me. Every other guitar I'm fine with, but hollow bodies, I'm either in hollow body mode, playing nothing but hollow bodies, or I'm mad at them. So let's see. DC Walker says the Bugera sounds far better than the Mesa triple rectifier. Ryan Bruce does a Bugera triple rec versus Mesa dual rectifier.
The tri-rec eats the Mesa alive.
It's possible. I've said this before. Being a Mesa fan, Mesas are love-hate. Sometimes they're right and sometimes they're not when it comes to the time of day and how loud. And so, Justin says, thoughts, experience with the Fender TBX tone pot. I just installed one in my USA Strat. I like it better than the regular tone pot. The TBX is a really cool tone pot. If you guys aren't familiar with it, it was most famous, I think, because Eric Clapton put it in his model of Strat. And the TBX is a tone pot that will go. It takes you from bass to back to center and then forward to highs, right? So it's really cool, and it's passive, right? I mean, it's been a year or so since I've installed one. It's not a real common thing. I know I have a couple of them downstairs in my shop in my bins, but what do I think of it? I think it was cool. I never installed one in one of my personal Strats. I always just did it for customers, and I never thought about it. So every once in a while, I thought I should probably do it. But I'm kind of simple when it comes to tone stack, and tone pots. I just kind of run everything very simple. I cock my tone knob just a hair back, just a quarter of a turn back, and find that sweet spot every time. But they are cool.
My tone's always turned to 10. Yeah. Except for my Strat, which I actually just wired it to one volume, and I didn't get rid of the tone.
Got rid of the tone. You've never done one of the TBXs, right? Because you don't.
I don't think so.
Yeah, because Ralph doesn't. I do more electrical work than Ralph does. He does some electrical work, but I do a lot of it. And you know what it is? I think that's part of kind of like a mechanic doesn't like to work on cars when he gets home. Mm-hmm. Electronics, I become keep it simple with electronics because I work on them so much that after a while you just go, I don't want to think about it. So you'd think I would deck out some of my guitars, although my main Strat is pretty decked out with how it's electrically wired up.
Hold on, Lawrence chipped in.
Okay, what do you say?
Go down. He's the next comment down.
Okay.
So essentially a standard tone pot with descent at noon.
Descent at noon. You mean detent at noon? It clicks in. It's essentially a standard tone pot with a detent at noon. No, I don't think you're right. Lawrence. I shouldn't really question Lawrence, but no, it definitely, the TBX circuit definitely pushes. Like I said, it's not pushing anything because it's not active. It removes. It's basically, you know what? The best way to probably think of it this way, Lawrence. I'm pretty sure it's just like a tone pod. It removes high frequency one direction, then goes to the center detent spot, and then I think it removes low frequency because it definitely has a part where it's. So I have to.
Lawrence said yes.
Okay, cool. Yeah, because I'm like, I know it's been like I said, it's been a little while, but I've installed a ton of them.
This is the only way we're going to argue with Lawrence is over the internet.
Yes. Yeah. Trust me, I usually don't want to. Okay. Let's see. You guys have some cool questions today. I appreciate that, and it's fun. This is the best thing to do is just talk gear. It's like talking sports, but better. Oh, Frank's talking about Eric Johnson and his semi-hollow Fender Strat. Yeah, he says Eric Johnson's loving his Fender semi-hollow Strat, and he said he's using it almost exclusively these days. Have you ever tried one? If so, what'd you think of it? Yeah, I believe it or not, I owned a semi-hollow Strat by Cole Clark. Remember Cole Clark?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so I had a Cole Clark semi-hollow Strat for a short time, and I really liked it. It was really cool, and it was super light, and that's why I got rid of it. It was so light that it just started making me feel like every time I picked up a normal guitar, it just felt. It was weird. I mean, it was like 4.5, 5 pounds. It was like air.
Yeah, it was weird because it felt so light, it felt fake.
Yeah, it felt fake. So that was in that one particular guitar, and that's the instance. So, but it was Cole Clark was a brand. It's an Australian company. So yeah, I would imagine it's a cool idea. I mean, they have semi-hollow tellies for forever, so a semi-hollow Strat just seems to make sense. And right now I'm playing my semi-hollow reclaimed. And I think semi-hollow guitars tend to pronounce the mids more. Something happens with the way the string moves that the pickups can hear. The string just produces more mid-frequency. It's basically how I feel. So it's nice because it gives you bigger notes, but it also makes your chords kind of sound a little nasal, which is why I have a love-hate relationship with semi-hollow guitars. Sometimes I'm in the mood for that sound, and sometimes I'm not. Shannon McCoy says, what happened to dial tone pickups? They just disappeared, but I can't find any info about them. I didn't know they disappeared. Why is it, why or if they'll come back? Shannon, the truth is a lot of companies are kind of disappearing right now. This is a giant reset button for the industry, the new world of internet and stuff. In fact, I'm pretty sure my understanding is I just heard that Seymour Duncan, who was selling direct to customers on their websites, is going to stop doing that and just go back to dealers again because they were having issues with the company that was providing the shopping cart. So for their website. So there's a lot of things like that. A lot of companies disappear just because it's so. Drawing with Micah says. Have you tried the JHS Boss Angry Driver? I didn't get a chance yet. I was going to check it out this week and go see if I can find one, but I haven't checked it out yet. It's like everything. I'm afraid to like it. It's just another thing I have to add to the wish list. But like I said, we talked about it last week. I thought it's an interesting idea. So... Jamie wants to know, why was the Squier Protone discontinued? Fender is really an oddball company. They will discontinue product all the time, and it's not because it's not selling well. It's just because everything has to be epic with them. They are as a company almost unique in the idea of like Apple computers. Like if it's not rocking, if it's not selling,
if it's not the number one thing that people want,
they kill it. They are notorious for that. So that's that's what happens in the Squier line. And then also too, one of the things that happens with companies, especially of that size, the product managers are only given so many SKUs. They have a budget to produce so much product, and they have to have the product. You don't want to be in a situation where the dealers are calling to order product and they don't have it. So a lot of times they have to make decisions. Like, hey, we're only allowed 50 SKUs, so we want to add 10 SKUs this year, which means 10 SKUs have to go away. So, they get rid of something just because they want to add something new. And a lot of times overseas, another problem is the factories don't deliver. That is really a very consistent. Every brand is dealing with that, and they deal with that every day. There are tons of stuff when it comes to overseas. The Chinese factories do not fulfill agreements all the time. All the time. We would constantly have delivery issues as dealers. You would wait and wait and wait, and then finally the company would say, yeah, the factory never shipped. One year, I want to say, I can't remember the year. Maybe you'll do better if you remember when I tell you the story. One year, we couldn't get banjos for the entire summer. For 3-4 months, no banjos, not a single one. And here's what's interesting about that. There is like one factory that makes all the banjos that are over in China, okay, right? So in China, there's like one factory that does all of the banjos.
And like one factory that makes ukuleles.
Yeah, it's weird. It's not like there's, normally in guitars and stuff, there's tons of factories in China. But in China, I think there's only one banjo factory. And it was because there was a few, but when that movie came out, Oh Brother, Where Art Thou, it was a huge surge in banjo sales because of the movie. And so a bunch of companies got into the banjo market, and then it just died. And when it died, there was such a huge volume and then drop that companies shut down doing banjos. They didn't want to deal with it anymore, and the one factory that was doing banjos burnt down. Now here's why I tell you the story. The reason I know that happened was we couldn't get our delivery of banjos from Fender. And then all of a sudden Washburn's like, oh, we can't fulfill the banjo delivery. And then all of a sudden it was not Breedlove. What was the other company? It was another company that we deal with. Oh, it was Dean. And then there was another company, and there was another company. All of a sudden we're like, what? And then we start calling around like Johnson, right? The smaller companies. And they're like, yeah, we don't have any. We didn't get our delivery yet. And none of the companies were saying anything. All of a sudden there was just like, and so I was sitting there going, I guess everybody's selling a lot of banjos? And then, so I asked around, and then finally somebody who knew said, oh no, what happened was the factory that made it burned down, so it's going to take a couple months to retool a different place. And so that kills a line too sometimes, is that just the factory that's making it. We had that also problem in 2009 when the recession hit. A lot of stuff stopped showing up because a lot of factories stopped making musical instruments and started making furniture.
Yeah, I remember that was a big thing.
It was a big deal. They stopped making, because they weren't selling, so they were like, screw it, we'll just make furniture. So, and they didn't say anything. So manufacturers were waiting for an order of 4,000 guitars. All of a sudden, when
those didn't come in. Who was it? I remember someone came to us and yeah, we don't have any guitars. What happened? They're making furniture right now because that's selling.
Yeah. So that stuff happens, and there's nothing they can do to enforce the contracts because that's what we learned. We're like, well, what do you do? And they're like, nothing. The factory doesn't care, and there's nothing to enforce. So
it's like find another factory.
Find another factory. That's what they got to do. So okay. So next question is okay. Hello, Deering. They like Deering banjos? Okay. Okay, so here's another one. I can't answer the question, but I'll at least give it a shot. Levy's saying, hey, thoughts on Michael Kelly guitars? They're cool. I've tried them. I've worked on a bunch. They have really cool features. They're essentially, to me, they're like Schecter and LTD and Diamond and a lot of companies where they make good quality stuff, and I've seen the majority of it seems really cool. I just never owned one myself. I don't know what it is. Anything stick out to you about the brand?
I don't think they stick out enough from the Schecter.
Yeah.
Or from the LTD that I can go.
Yeah.
Well, like even LTD, I've never owned an LTD because it didn't stick out far enough from an Ibanez or Schecter to me. And those are the two in that price point for me that I go, well, these are the top guys. What can you do that's better than them? Or what can you do that's different?
Yeah, it really comes down to the you can't own everything logic. So it's just a brand that I just never personally owned anything from it for no particular reason other than I've owned other stuff that I felt, I could say, so and so to very, very clear, I'd say the same thing about G&L that I've said about Michael Kelly. It's a great brand, great reputation, everything looks right, everything I've touched feels right, but I have Fenders, so I just never thought to go buy one or try one. So maybe I need to, because I look at G&L constantly going, maybe I should look at that product as well too.
And again, the problem with G&L is it beat my Fender.
Yeah, and more importantly, sadly enough, which we talked about this in the past, there's nowhere to try them.
Yes, that's the big problem. Is a lot of stuff out there, but where can I put my hands on it? Yeah. Where can I play it? So.
Yeah. So.
Okay.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it appeals to you because they have radius and pickup options. Like I said,
Yeah.
the good news is Levy, is I can tell you this. I've never had a bad experience with the Mike O'Kelly working on them. I've worked on maybe a dozen over the years, and I've had friends that had them and they're happy with them. Like I said, and they look cool. So everything seems right. I just never found
I mean,
them
if it fits you, that's what's the important thing.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Kristen is saying she owns a Michael Kelly Enlightened, and it's great.
6 pounds?
6 pounds. Sounds great. Doesn't aggravate my arthritis in the neck. Awesome.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. And they look cool. I mean, they have look cools and they sound great, so it sounds good. Okay. I think it's really says Marty Friedman PRS guitar thoughts. He's not with them anymore, right? He's with Jackson now.
Yeah, he went to Jackson because he back in the 90s it was Jackson, left that one to Ibanez, had that weird Ibanez one. Then he went to PRS.
Yep.
Now he's back at Jackson with that weird single cut, which we saw at NAMM.
Yep.
And I was really disappointed on.
Oh, you didn't like it?
No, it has this super thick baseball neck.
Oh,
it reminds me
right.
of the Paul Gilbert Fireman.
That's the Jackson we're talking about. So
yeah,
you know,
it's the Jackson. Yeah,
right. It was thick,
and that guitar was heavy. Both the Jackson,
it was heavy.
US made,
and the import,
both were ridiculously heavy. Because I always loved the Kelly models. Yep. So I was like, oh, yeah, this is going to be great. You know, it's got a cool shape. It's going to have this super cool neck on it. No.
Yeah. The PRS one was pretty cool. For a fun note, if you ever get bored, look up when he was with Ibanez. A lot of people don't know he was with Ibanez for a while because they didn't have a lot of them in the U.S. It has no knobs. Remember, it has no knobs. No knobs and no switch. I think it was on-off.
Yeah.
Yeah, it had on-off switch.
Because even his USA Kelly model back in the day was one pickup.
Yep.
One pickup, one volume.
One on-off switch. That's it. So there you go. Salvador says, I recently discovered a little Thunder pickup. Have you heard of them? It's a neat idea, but they aren't really many good reviews on them. Yeah, I think Mary Spender did a review of it. It's a pickup that creates the bass note as well as the guitar note, if I'm not mistaken. I checked them out. I thought they were at the NAMM show. Can't remember if they were this year or last year, but I've definitely seen the product. Seems cool to me. It's a niche thing, you know, right?
Yeah.
So it's not that it's not good or bad. It's just like I just need to have a reason for needing that. And installing it in a guitar and saying, okay, this guitar is going to have that feature. So that's basically all the issue. But other than that, it seems really cool. But I know Mary Spender did a review of it. I'm very sure of it because I think that's where I saw it first. And then Matt O'Neill says, experience with Jet City amps. Matt, we already kind of talked about that earlier, but Jet City amps I've had great experiences with. I think they're definitely, of all the inexpensive line amplifiers in the recent years, like Agnator and Black Star and all that stuff, I think Jet City has been one of my favorites for quality and just the way they feel and sound when you hear the tone. They kind of feel tubey to me, less solid state with tube push, or mix. Mm-hmm. They seem more legit. Very, very cool product for sure. Oh, somebody's agreeing with you, Ralph. That the Jackson was a monster guitar.
Yeah, I love those Kelly models. And when we were Jackson dealer, every time we got U.S. models in, I was like, I need one of these. Blue Voodoo.
So 2 questions. First, David says, are vintage Fenders better? Well,
depends.
Yeah, I can say I know. I not to me, to somebody yes, to me no. I could tell you. I'll tell you this, and maybe this will help you. So working on his mini vintage guitars, and I've owned a few. Okay, so I've owned a few, but I've worked on a ton of them, and here's what I learned working on a ton of vintage guitars over the years. There are a lot of really good ones. They're just magical. They just have something. It's maybe the age, maybe being played for years, maybe it was just everything was right the day it was built. I don't know, but there's something great about them. What I learned is those always came with the same person in for repair. They've had it forever. They're never letting it go.
Yeah, they bought it back, from the store back in '62.
So I have a theory when it comes to vintage guitars, and this is the theory that's helped me stay away from them. I think that a few of vintage guitars are amazing. And the players that have them, unless they get in serious financial problems, keep them. And then a lot of vintage guitars are turds. And those constantly get resold. They get sold. So I think a lot of times when you see a vintage guitar, you see it get sold, and then that guy, he does everything, and he takes it to his local luthier tech, and that guy does everything he can to it, and then he messes with it, and then he sells it off, and then another person does the same thing, and they just keep churning and churning and churning because they can't figure out why it's not great when a vintage guitar is supposed to be great. And the truth is, vintage guitars are no different than any other guitars. Some are great, some are not. It's from 1,000 reasons and variables that happen, and generally speaking, I think that a lot of times playing the Magic ones drives that price point up of all of them because and most of the price point on vintage guitars is really driven by availability. 59 Les Pauls are expensive because they're not available.
Yeah.
I mean, that happens with anything. Once you can't have something, then it's a finite resource. Once you turn anything into a finite resource, the value is going to go up because.
Well, I think we all, because we've heard for so long, that there was these magical era of guitars,
yep.
And if I get one, I'm gonna get toned. I'm gonna be so much better.
Yeah.
And the truth is, it's just a guitar.
What I have to say about all that is never any good to anybody, which is it's luck of the draw. And I mean luck of the draw by finding it. Any guitar, new guitars, old guitars, most of the guitars I have, that I've kept is because I found it. It's great. I can't hold on to it. When people see a guitar coming in and out of my collection fast, it's because I got it and it's a good guitar. It's just not, it's not connecting with me in a special way. So it's not, it doesn't feel great. And it takes you a while, to come to that realization. It's not an easy thing because it's not a guitar is defective. It won't stay in tune. Just sometimes it's just, it doesn't feel exactly like you hoped or whatever. So there you go. So a lot of hype in vintage guitars is what I'm trying to say. So with that in mind, you have to buyer beware. Sonic Sega says, are Behringer products bad? ? I've had bad experiences with amps and pedals. Anyone else? And that's what we talked about earlier. Yeah, they're not bad. It's just they're inexpensive. And inexpensive products, sometimes, you get what you pay for. So, and in that regard, where my pet peeve is sometimes expensive stuff breaks. Yeah. I've had that experience as well. So it's not that they're bad; they're inexpensive products, and so you can't expect pro results from product that isn't built for professional use. So should it break on you? No, but is it more logical to think that a product that's price point friendly, that's directly built to hit a price point, is going to have components that are subpar?
Yeah, because they got to cut costs somewhere.
Got to come. Yeah.
And I've known guys that have gigged with the Behringer stuff, never had a problem with it over years. And then again, you'll see that one guy took it 2 gigs, and all of a sudden, it's cutting out on him. So.
Yes. Okay, and we'll do this last question right here. It is. Okay, Slacker wins. He's getting the question if I can open it. Where's it at? Speaking of a Les Paul Gibson or Heritage. Oh, good question, Slacker. I've said this before, so I kind of don't want to beat all these, the same questions over and over again. But this one's an important one, I think. I really like the Heritage guitars I've touched. In fact, I'm really excited about them. But here's my thing, and so if you notice that I have some Gibsons and I've tried some Heritage and I haven't bought Heritage, the reason is because I feel like Heritage and G&L have something in common with me, which is I think they make a better average product. I think if you were to take 20 Heritages and 20 Gibsons and hold them on the merit of quality, I think Heritage could win. And I think if you took 20 G&Ls and 20 Fenders, American Fenders, and put them on comparison for quality on average, I think G&L would win. And kind of like what we talked about earlier about making sure, you're finding the right guitar. What I find very comforting about Gibsons and Fenders to me is that when I buy one, even if I just buy one online, try it online, buy it, get it here, try it, it's great. Like this red Strat, I told Ralph, I'm in not love with it, right? Yeah. I like it. I don't know if I'm keeping it. I think
it was your fix on the red Strat.
Yeah, I wanted a red Strat. This is the one they make, and it has a rosewood neck. But the point is this. I know what this guitar is worth when I sell it. So to me, this wasn't a scary proposition. You buy it for $1,100. That's what I paid for it. When I sell it, I'm going to get 11 or 12, right? And so if I get 12, I'll basically get my money back because you got to sell it for a little bit more than you bought it after fees to get your money back. But even if I lost $100, it's not ideal. But it wasn't a scary proposition to me. G&L and Heritage. If I buy wrong, if I buy one, I don't love it. And I sell it, the resale is horrible. So I got to take that hit because that's what Gibson and Fender bring to the table. They bring brand recognition, brand value. So and I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I think Kia doesn't have a strong resale record as probably Ford, right, and Chevy. So I would expect, or Honda, that's probably more fair, right?
Yeah. Kia to Honda, Kia to Toyota.
Yeah, Kia to Honda and Toyota, right, brand value. So I don't want to be a hypocrite. I really am interested in Heritage. There's no local dealers. There's no one to try one. Everything seems to be, if I just buy one and hope it works out, it's been very scary for me. So on that note, I'm going to tell you to do what I've been doing, which is to buy Gibson, but I really do think Heritage deep down. I'm hoping one day I just find this Heritage. The sad thing is I found one at the NAMM show, at the summer NAMM show. I was at the booth, and there was one, and I was like, you know what, this is it. And they were like, it's not for sale. And I would have bought it right then. And I would have in fact, I can tell you right now, if they would have sold it to me, I would have bought it, and I would have sold my 2 Gibsons and been done and happy. And what they said was, well, come to the factory and we'll make you one. And I'm like, I don't want to try something I don't know. So that's...
I just don't like the headstocks on the Heritage.
Well,
it's like the G&Ls too. That headstock kills me.
That is the part that we can't talk about, right? We can't talk about that, but it's the truth. G&L and Heritage have horrible, ugly headstocks, and that's what kills the resale value. And because the Gibson headstock and the Fender headstock
are iconic.
Yes, they're iconic. And
it's like they went almost there, then it went close enough.
And it's dumb and it's silly, but it's the truth, which is, I think, like I said, there's no question. I think even people who are diehard Fender and Gibson fans, no one, I think, disparages that G&L and Heritage make good products.
Yeah.
It's just, there's some legacy behind the Gibsons and the Fenders. So that's what it is. And I agree. The Heritage headstock, just like G&L headstock, I'm okay with it. I don't have a problem with it. I think they look fine. But I know that's what kills the resale, is that people just don't like those headstocks. And if anyone wants to argue with that, it's fine. Put that in the comments. But I can tell you right now, when you go online and watch reviews of those products, read the amount of comments about the headstocks being ugly. There are just thousands. And although that doesn't have to affect how I feel about a product, it does affect how the resale value affects how I sell. And so I look online. At used Heritage and G&Ls pretty much weekly to see if I can find that deal. So there you go. Like I said, I regret not buying the Heritage, or not buying. I wish they would have sold to me. I regret, trying not
being able to buy it.
Yeah, I think I probably should have worked them harder too for it to sell it to me, and that's okay. It happens. So there you go. All right, that was a fun Saturday of questions. I appreciate you guys hanging out. I appreciate Ralph.
Yeah, and you're going to Germany next week?
I'm going to Germany next week. There will be a QA next Friday, but it will be a recorded one. It's going to be all of your guys' questions. They've been sending into the Ask Know Your Gear page, and it will be a 30 minute to 1 hour video of all those questions. So it'll move a little faster and smoother than the live show. I like the live show because it keeps me on my toes, and I can't predict what you're going to ask me. So I think that makes it a little kind of fun because I can pick and choose the online questions, what's easy. So there you go.
And again, if it's a weird question, like, let me double check this. Let me look it up real quick.
Yeah. And plus it's kind of a way to interact with everybody, which is cool. So, and then announcements. I want to thank everybody. If you guys saw the thumbnail, thank everybody on Patreon for supporting the live show. That's basically what I'm doing now. Is I'm using those funds to fund all this stuff and all this time and everything. And like I said, we'll be exciting stuff about GitCon. GitCon will have live shows. That's why I'm not going to do a live broadcast on Friday, because I'm pretty sure I'm going to do at least 1, if not 2, live broadcasts from GitCon, and then GitCon has live broadcasts. So that's the end of all those announcements. So anything to say before we go?
No, it's just, I'm not going to wake up at 5 o'clock in the morning to watch you talk about guitars.
This is true. I didn't think about that.
Yeah, let me be honest here.
Time zones will be different. So.
But if you're awake at 5 o'clock in the morning, there you go. You're all set.
Yes. All right, guys. As always, I want to thank you for your time.
Thank you.
And know your gear.